That's what we keep saying, like, don't count it done until it's done.
Yeah.
What, you know what the funny thing is like you got that call like out of the blue, right?
Yeah. Hey, we wanna start.
I never really watched it.
Good. Scoping it out.
Yeah, we're at the signal house.
Mike and trucks. Good so far, Kevin.
Aww. And with that, I'm going to call the meeting to order. Kathy, would you please call the roll?
Byrd,
Present.
Peters, Garcia,
Here.
Trethewey,
Here.
Arnshorst, here, Corbin,
Here.
Hoekstra,
Here.
Raymond, here, Mayor Box.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Great, thank you very much. We'll begin this evening, as we have for many years, with an opening prayer, tonight led by Councilman Hoekstra, and immediately followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. We would love it if you would join us.
For our prayer this evening, I'd like to share the peace prayer of St. Francis. I invite you to pray with me. Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. Where there is sadness, joy. O divine Master, grant that I may not so much seek to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. For it is in giving that we receive, it is in pardoning that we are pardoned, and it is in dying that we are born to eternal life. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next is our consent agenda. These items are ones that are considered to be fairly routine and have been previously reviewed by council in our packet, and will be enacted with one motion unless a member of the audience or a member of council asks that an item be removed from the consent agenda and considered in its normal sequence. Kathy, would you please review the consent agenda for us?
Item 4A, absences excused, Councilmember Peters. 4B, approval of minutes, September 2nd, regular meeting, September 9th, 2020 study session. 4C, Board of Public Works, 18th Street water main replacement. 4D, Board of Public Works, Holland Energy Park mezzanine stairs. 4E, Planning Commission, proposed rezoning of 1002 Lincoln Ave and 188 East 40th Street from the PUD Planned Unit Development District to the C2 Highway Commercial District for first reading. Final adoption October 7, 2020. City Attorney, Comcast Uniform Video Service Local Franchise Agreement. City Clerk, claim filed against the city. 4H, Community Neighborhood Services, Community Development Block Grant, Consolidated Annual Performance and Evaluation Report, scheduled public hearing for October 7, 2020. 4I, Parks and Recreation, United Way Annual Campaign Signs on Public Property. 4J, Management and Administrative Services, Human Resources, Delegates to Municipal Employees Retirement System Annual Meeting. 4K, Management and Administrative Services, Revocable License Agreement. 5, Monitoring Wells, Essenberg Car Wash.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's hard to say all at once.
Yeah.
Is there anyone in the audience who would like to remove an item from the consent agenda and have it placed upon the regular agenda? Any member of council that would like to remove an item from the consent agenda and place it on the regular agenda? Yes, Mr. Corbin.
Item 4E, please.
All right, and that is not designated, at least on the agenda that I have, as to where that would go. Mr. Van Beek, do you know where that would fit in the regular agenda?
That's the rezoning, correct?
Yes.
So I believe
Oh,
under
great,
the Planning Commission.
great. 12B1, Planning Commission, there we go. Rezoning. All right, anyone else?
It's always a trick, and it's kind of hard to decode our system. Under the report is where we put where we.
Oh, there it is. Yep.
And then 16A. We
Yep.
probably should do them in both those places.
No, that's all right. I have it on my screen here, but did not have it on the paper copy. So you've got it covered. I don't need to be spoon-fed every single day. So, anyone else would like to remove an item from the consent agenda and have it placed on the regular agenda? All right, with that, I would entertain a motion to accept the consent agenda as amended.
Motion to adopt the agenda as amended.
Moved by Trethewey, is there support?
Support.
Support by Ernst. Any discussion? Kathy, would you please call the roll?
Byrd,
Yes.
Garcia,
Yes.
Trethewey,
Yes.
Arnsworst. Yes. Corbin,
Yes.
Hoekstra,
Yes.
Raymond,
Yes.
Mayor Box.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Next item is public comment. This is opportunity for the public to speak to council. We do limit this to 5 minutes. You can speak on any subject that you want. We do not respond at this time. And for those who may be here who haven't spoken at public comment period before, there are 3 lights on the dais in front of me. There's a green light, a yellow light, and a red light. Green light means you're doing well on time. Yellow light means you have 1 minute left, and red light means your time has expired, and we are strict about that. Is there anyone here who would like to address council at this time? If so, please come forward and state your name and address for the record.
Ann Hunterington, 338 Royal Park Drive, Zeeland. I am from Zeeland, not from Holland, but I shop here, so I'm a part of Holland. I'm here this evening to speak to what this ordinance that you have passed has opened for the Holland as it has done in other communities. After reading an article from Joshua Stevens online called Problematic Women, I reacted with horror and then sobs. I cried myself to sleep that night and the next day continued to be brokenhearted. It is about an agenda of Planned Parenthood and their new goal of sex education inclusive of lesbians, gays, bisexuals, transgenders, and transvestites, and etc. I will be sending this to you. You see, I was a 6th grade teacher for 11 years in upstate New York. I was the grade level chairman that year and was in charge of implementing sex education program. The health teachers had been to a conference and highly recommended a speaker from Buffalo. She was cute, peppy, and charismatic. We asked her to come and tell us more. Her husband was a gynecologist, and so she was well informed. Her curriculum began in 4th grade through 6th grades. She presented program to the school board, teachers, PTA, and clergy. Her slides were very graphic concerning male and female anatomy and the sexual experience. I was shocked at the information. This was 1995. She said clearly not to be naive that children are having sex as young as grade 3. They need to know how to act responsibly and safely. The parents, teachers, and clergy said no to much of her ideology. I said I would not be in the classroom with the children if that degree of sex education was going to be exhibited. I could have lost my job. But the senior high health teacher commented that he would not show these graphic overheads even to his seniors. The superintendent agreed. With that being said, when I read Problematic Women, I realized that something has progressed, progressivism, in the total perversion of life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. Illinois has adopted Planned Parenthood sex education program this year. So have other states like California. It starts in preschool with teddy bears for the children so that they would believe that they could be a different gender. When the children unzip the teddy, there inside is a rainbow teddy bear. This is transgender education at preschool. The older grades are introduced to alternative sexual behavior. So what is wrong with that, right? As some of you listen to, you say the same question. When will sexual thinking ideology stop? Here's the quote from the article. But according to Planned Parenthood, and the future of sex education, they believe that in sexual rights of all children, they do believe that children at any age, even infancy, have the right to sexual pleasure. You can read their own mission statement yourself. What would happen in the Holland schools, especially with virtual, the ones that are there that don't have parents that are going to teach them? And I think of the minorities and how they would handle this. Your ordinance opens the door to many things beyond your control. Everyone should have housing and jobs with no discrimination, true. But this does not stop here. When I raised the question to a council member of a drag float in the Tulip Time Parade or rainbow flags in June on 8th Street instead of the American flag, the response was, I don't see it a problem. Grand Rapids has disability drag troupe of performers. Would they be featured here in Holland, and why not? You've got an ordinance. Have you heard the latest lawsuit of legal appropriations for an adult accused of abusing a boy in Boy Scouts of America after they approved gay men and being scout leaders? Have you heard the science psychology of legalizing pedophilia under the same ideology? You seem to have sympathy and hope to protect and approve of one group of people. Will you now be able to defend behavior that you never wanted to defend before with an ordinance? I ask you to repeal it. We need a better ordinance, not this one.
Thank you, Ann. Is there anyone else here who would like to address council at this time? Seeing none, I will close the public comment period. Next item, item number 7, special order of the day, public hearings. Downtown parking operations and maintenance assessments, adopt resolution of necessity, and adopt resolution scheduling hearing on final assessment for October 7. Mr. Van Beek.
Yes, I'm going to have Assistant City Manager Matt Van Dyken come up. And for you all, it might seem like Groundhog Day because he's going to give a brief presentation on what these next 3 items are about. But I think it's helpful just for the viewing public and for anyone that might be here to comment on the public hearing to just give context. So thank you, Matt.
Thank you. Good evening. So as you all probably remember, I spoke to you at some length at your last regular meeting about these downtown assessments and the changes that are being proposed by the appropriate bodies. These are the parking, the PSD, and the Snowmelt assessments. The parking assessment, the parking board has recommended a one-time decrease to that assessment. So it's a 5% reduction in that assessment for this coming year. These are really in response to the struggles that our downtown businesses face in the period of COVID when they haven't either been open at all or have been open at limited capacity. So parking is the first one. As you know, free parking is not free, and that is paid for by our downtown business owners. The PSD board is recommending to you that we have a 10% reduction in that PSD assessment with the elimination of some of our events. Unfortunately, again, due to COVID, that has reduced some of the costs that we incur as well. So we're comfortable that the reduction in events and the reduction in income will be covered by our fund balance. And the final one is the snowmelt assessment. As you know, Holland now boasts just under 5 miles of snowmelt. That assessment, to have that in the downtown, is recommended to not see the annual increase of about 3%. Again, a one-time, one-year recommendation from all of those respective groups. Mayor, you said tonight is the resolution of necessity and scheduling the public hearing. That would be for all 3 of these items.
Thank you. Any questions for Matt? Great. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
And I believe that the procedure here is opening a public hearing on each one of these items individually, and then moving to a motion on each one of these items individually. So with that, I will open a public hearing on the downtown parking operations and maintenance assessment. Is there anyone here who would like to speak to council in regard to this particular item? Yes, please come forward and state your name and address for the record.
And while this gentleman
Oh, we got
yeah,
it.
spray this. And I will say, Mayor, obviously anyone can come and speak to any items. Technically, this isn't the public hearing, this is scheduling the public hearing, so I think I have that correct.
I'm sorry. I
Right,
thought
Matt?
we were doing public hearings this evening.
It's in, so actually in the motion, it says, adopt the resolution of necessity and schedule a public hearing.
all
Now,
right.
gentlemen certainly is
Certainly.
still welcome to come under our rules and speak to any agenda item, but just a clarification.
All right, great. Thank you. Appreciate that. I won't go through the exercise of opening a public hearing on the other two items then.
All
But
right.
certainly, sir, come forward. And please do state your name and address for the record.
My name is Scott Bauman. I am a business owner and a building owner downtown Holland. Part of the, I believe we're on the parking part of it, correct? The 5%
Reduction.
reduction? Okay, thank you very much for that. The problem I have is the issue of the, in front of my building, there's 4 parking spots that have been taken away from my business for the restaurant that's next door to me. How that affects me, it's the best problem ever to have, is there's hard to find parking already, and now I've lost 4 spaces in front of my store for this restaurant. Now, I understand it's hard for restaurants right now, but I'm also a business down there. I also am having a harder time with business. And so how does that fairness come back, that people that want to come to my business can't park because those 4 spots have been given to a restaurant to use instead of customers to use for me? So that's just something I'm hoping can be addressed. And I would also like to ask if someone could, or somehow someone could check these spots, because the place in front of me does not get cleaned up as well as 84 East or even New Holland Brewery, even Cora. It's usually a lot more leaves, a lot dirtier. I think this is something that should be policed or looked at or checked out too, just to be cleaner and neater. If they're allowed to have those 4 spots, I think there should be a little bit more cleaning, keeping it up, to at least keep the presence of Holland looking better. That's just something I try to pick it up when I'm walking into work, pick up stuff, but the leaves and things, I just wish there was kind of a directive of, please clean this area, blow out the leaves or spray it down or whatever. The guy that does the best job is 84 East. He's out there every morning with a leaf blower, and at times spraying it down just to get loose food particles that fall on the ground all cleaned up. And next door to me, they really don't do that. I would like to see somehow that gets taken care of. 5%, I don't think is for them to get that extra space, it really detracts from me. How is it going to be fair? So that's something I'd like to have talked about. So, and I know this is really kind of unique. I'm not supposed to be up here talking about it at this time, but so there's something I'd like a little bit more input on when the special meeting is called.
All right, thank you
Okay.
very much. Anyone else who would like to address council at this time? All right, I will close the public hearing that I was not supposed to open in the first place.
Sorry about that, Mr. Mayor.
That's all right. We like public comment at any time, so, or at any appropriate time, I guess I should say. With that, I will entertain a motion to adopt a resolution of necessity in regard to downtown parking operations and maintenance assessment.
So moved.
Moved by Trethewey, is there support?
Support.
Support by Hoekstra. Any discussion? And Kathy, would you please call the roll?
Garcia,
Yes.
Trethewey,
Yes.
Arnsworst,
Yes.
Corbin,
Yes.
Hoekstra,
Yes.
Raymond,
Yes.
Bird,
Yes.
Mayor Box.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, thank you. Next item, Downtown Principal Shopping District Assessment. I'd entertain a motion to adopt a resolution of necessity for the annual Principal Shopping District Assessment and adopt a resolution scheduling a hearing on the final assessment for October 7, 2020.
So moved.
Moved by Trethewey. Is there support? Support by Byrd. Is there a member of the public who would like to speak to this particular agenda item at this time? Seeing none, are there any discussion by council? Seeing none, Kathy, would you please call the roll?
Trethewey,
Yes.
Arnsworst,
Yes.
Corbin,
Yes.
Hoekstra,
Yes.
Raymond,
Yes.
Bird,
Yes.
Garcia,
Yes.
Mayor Box.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. And third and final in this section, Downtown Snowmelt Operations and Maintenance Assessment, to entertain a motion to adopt a resolution of necessity for the annual Downtown Snowmelt Operations and Maintenance and adopt a resolution scheduling a hearing on the final assessment for October 7, 2020.
So move.
Moved by Aaron's Horse. Is there
Support.
and support by Trethewey. Anyone from the public who would like to comment in regard to this particular agenda item? Seeing none. Council, any discussion? Seeing none. Kathy, would you please call the roll?
Arnsworst,
Yes.
Corbin,
Yes.
Hoekstra,
Yes.
Raymond,
Yes.
Bird,
Yes.
Garcia,
Yes.
Trethewey,
Yes.
Mayor Box.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Next item, item number 9, written petitions and communications. I believe that we have received some written communications at our special email address, publiccomment@cityofholland.com. We've established that for those folks who do not feel comfortable coming to the meeting in person. And I believe there are some there, and we would like to accept those into the record. I would entertain a motion to that effect.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Hoekstra. Is there support?
Support.
Support by Byrd. Any discussion?
Yes.
Yes.
Actually, there was one by a person, Chris Grant, that said there was an attachment in there. I didn't find one on mine. On my agenda.
Was that the one in regard to the non-discrimination ordinance?
No, it was in regard to,
Oh, no, that's.
no, was it energy saving?
Okay, I'll check with Cinca and
Yeah,
we'll,
traffic congestion and noise. Oh, it's a brand new one now. Wait a minute.
yeah, it's there.
The whole, but it says, please find my, attach my
And
public.
if you scroll one page further,
See, I'm using my iPad now because it wasn't on my.
no worries.
Okay, thank you.
No
All right,
worries.
You
great.
bet.
So it is there, you just didn't have the opportunity to take a look
You
at
know, we
it.
have a commissioner problem.
All
Thank
right.
you.
You're not
No worries.
crazy. I couldn't find it a couple of days ago, and now it's here. So
All righty.
I think it just got lost in the cyberspace.
And
Right.
it's also posted twice. So
Yes, okay.
the Energy Saving Initiative and the New Transportation Solutions is the same one. So
We
I don't know if
Lost a lot of
there's one
energy
we're
with
missing.
that too. Okay, thank you.
All right, great. Any other discussion by council? All right, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next item is, I believe that's item 12B, that has to do with the rezoning of 1002 Lincoln Avenue and 188 East 40th Street. And Mr. Van Beek, I believe we've got Jenna Ellswick here already.
Yeah, Jenna's ready. I guess I'll assume that a brief presentation would be fine, but before I do that, I guess I'd turn it over to Councilman Corbin. Would you like for Jenna to just give an overview of it, and then, or is there a question that you want to review since you pulled it off the consent? Does that sound fine that Jenna makes a presentation?
Overview would be very appropriate.
Great.
And then I think I've already fielded some questions that have been responded to, so we want to clarify those as well.
Awesome. Then as
Thank you.
context, then Jenna will give us an overview of what the recommendation from Planning Commission is.
Thank you.
Great, good evening. So the request is for rezoning for 2 adjacent properties, 1002 Lincoln Avenue and 188 East 40th Street, highlighted in the boxes on your screen. So the map to the left is showing the existing zoning. So currently those properties are zoned PUD, Planned Unit Development. The request is for C2 highway commercial zoning. The map to your right, as we do with any rezoning request, we look at our future land use map out of the master plan. And so this is a snippet of that future land use map. And so that's designated by the future land use map as highway commercial. Which speaks to the land uses that are then coordinated with the actual zoning ordinance or language and zone districts. So the request was made by True North for the construction of a gas station. The site plan shows 8 pumps that would just be for vehicle fueling, though there would be some diesel capacity, though they assured us that semis and the like would not be using the gas station for that matter. There would be a convenience store, and then significant amount of landscaping was required between the fueling canopies and 40th Street to buffer the use from the residential homes that are across the street. In addition, Brian White, city engineer, required them to, as a condition of approval, to do an intersection revision so that there would be the ability for travelers going eastbound 40th to be able to have a designated left-hand turn lane to go north onto Lincoln Avenue, and then therefore also designated right onto Lincoln Avenue as well. And then the entrance and exit off of Lincoln Avenue into the site would be designated as right in and right out only, and done so with some type of a treatment. Generally, they use a pork chop construction to ensure to designate that. There's also, as you can see, a very large clear vision corner that's placed by MDOT. The applicant was in touch with MDOT regarding this project, and MDOT did not have any concerns other than them wanting to put in a fence, which was also a condition of approval for the site plan, which Planning Commission approved. Here are some renderings.
Jen, just while you're right there,
Sure.
I didn't understand what you said. MDOT had a problem with the fence.
No, MDOT just wanted them to add a fence,
Okay. all right,
which
so
wasn't originally in the site plan, but the applicant said that there was no issue with that.
It was part of the condition, so it will be there.
It will be
All
there
right,
if
thank you.
approved, yes.
Thank you.
Sure. So here are some renderings of the final product. Also required would be to put a sidewalk along 40th Street on the frontage. That might end up being a public access easement because it may not be able to fit into the right-of-way with the reconfiguration of the intersection. But again, that's a condition of approval and one that was accepted by the applicant. So I'm happy to take any questions.
Scott?
A list of questions. Some of which you're prepared for, so we, this is zone PUD, correct?
Correct.
In the community outreach policy, it triggers outreach under our planning commission. And the way it reads, it says if it's a PUD, it would
Um,
trigger that, and just the language I had read. Can you clarify
Yeah.
the language first on what's required?
Sure. So, first of all, it's when it's changing to be a PUD. So when there's a PUD development and it's going to be a PUD, not away from being a PUD. So that's number one for the policy. Number two is that a workshop is required when it's immediately adjacent to residential. And so per the policy, that meant property line to property line, and that a street in between the site and residential units wouldn't trigger it.
So when I read bullet 2 under that workshop where he mentions, says all site plan reviews in the C3 zone district, bullet point 2 says all development plans approved with a PUD, residential development or PUD planned unit development. It says all development plans approved with a PRD planned residential development or PUD planned unit development. So if it's already approved, it's not one being proposed, it's one that's current. So
Yeah, so I guess the intent of that is that it would be for something that would be approved as a PUD, because that would be part of a PUD agreement, and generally a higher density development with a PUD.
So that can be a little confusing for the reader, correct?
Yeah, we'll
And
change
the
that
community.
language. Thank you for pointing that out.
Well, but it may be where some may outline that there should be some public outreach still included. It's not about changing language, it's what they've interpreted the language to be, and that there should be some more additional outreach before moving ahead, so. That's one. Two is, what is the distance and public notice? I know you've answered me, but I just want to make sure we publicly talk about what that distance is. And I've seen 600 feet and I've seen 300 feet. I just want to make sure we clarify the differences between the two.
Sure. So the legal standard for noticing for any site plan or rezoning, we follow the Michigan Zoning Enabling Act, which requires a 300-foot buffer zoning. We, Community and Neighborhood Services, Planning Commission, and then ultimately City Council, with the policy for the workshop, said, really for these workshops, we should try to get a larger presence of the neighbors. So we made that requirement for developers to reach out to be 600 feet versus the 300 feet.
So we wanted to use a little bit of caution with the current property owners to making sure that it was, it worked with the neighborhood, right? We used a level of caution to do that.
Right.
So I, go back in my previous comment that maybe we should consider that or acknowledge that and what people are reading into that part of the policy. So how many properties were then noticed out of that, in that area?
Sure. So 24 were noticed, the actual properties themselves. So like the occupants of the properties. And then I believe it was 26 were noticed that were property owners that were not occupants themselves.
Okay. And so MDOT also provided some language in our packet. Let me get to that real quick here. It says MDOT agrees, and this may be more of a question for Brian than you, but MDOT agrees with the consultant that the intersection of Lincoln and 40 does not meet warrant base year. The report shows that warranting values will not be met for an opening year at the intersection. However, it looks like the opening year intersection will be very close to meeting the warrant 1A, which is in parentheses a 7 of 8 hours. And it says MDOT recommends the city of Holland keep a close eye on this intersection and its operations to make sure its operations and it's acceptable to the LOS, and I apologize, I don't know what that acronym means.
Level of service.
Level of service, okay. Once the gas station is open. So is there some concerns through MDOT? Is that just kind of this generalized language? They say a warning that you need to use a level of caution on this particular project and regarding traffic because we have no real science-based traffic study that can conclude how much additional traffic load there would be?
Yeah, no, so fair question, and I would say this, I think MDOT maybe stepped a little bit beyond kind of where their lane would be, and that this is really, we're talking about an intersection that's on our street. So, but with that said, we feel, and we looked at this analysis for a dedicated left turn there a few years ago when we were doing Lincoln Avenue, and we were right at the threshold then. So we feel that with the addition of this traffic that comes with the station, that is going to basically trip that warrant. Now, when in time that happens, again, depending on how you do your traffic study, I think you can come up with different answers. But in my mind, I'm thinking that this is really something that needs to come with the construction of the gas station. We know we were close 2 years ago. The data that they used to make the analysis was, the traffic counts were generated during COVID, right? Which, again, we tried to normalize those. But I really feel that it's important that we incorporate the intersection improvements just with what's happening with the traffic there.
Which is what we're doing.
Which is what we're doing.
So
yes.
how closely was 40th Street calculated into this equation? We know that 40th Street has been changed over the last few years considerably, and it's got a lot of high traffic flow on 40th Street. There's been a lot of development. One condo association has been added, several developments, housing developments. But was there any part of that study that included 40th Street and the impacts of Lincoln and 40th to that property?
So 40th Street was part of the study that was done by True North and their consultant, if that's the question?
Yep, it is.
Yeah. So that was incorporated into that. And that's what basically led us to say, hey, you know what? We really think this is important. Now, the interpretation, I think, is subject to where the disagreement, if you will.
Correct.
So we're looking at it as, we're thinking this is appropriate, whereas the folks that did the study is saying just watch it, and then a couple of years from now, if it trips, then go ahead and do that.
Okay.
We don't necessarily want to wait.
And the final question is, we have about 300 homes across the street, mobile home park. People are constantly changing across the street. Maybe not as frequently as now, but they probably will once this comes into play. What MDOT also mentions is that there's going to be a timing chain needed for the light. So what's that going to look like for pedestrians crossing?
Sure.
Are we making anything? Are we providing any additional safety barriers or safety precautions for the persons crossing that major highway,
Yep.
31?
Yep, understand the question. So basically, there's certain time that is dedicated for that crossing movement, for that pedestrian movement. MDOT, with these timing changes, are not going to jeopardize, I guess, if you will, any of that time required to get across the street. So typically that time will come from the opposite direction or a different vehicular movement, if you will. So there's still going to be a lot of time to clear those pedestrians out of the intersection before the signal rules. So I think I'm answering your question there.
Yeah.
There will be ample time for pedestrians to make those movements at the appropriate time.
Yeah, so when I look at 16th Street and a few of the others, there's a right turn to make the turnaround
Yep.
to move different direction on 31. That's a very short distance between Lincoln and the turnaround that's there. I'm really concerned with the traffic load, pedestrian crossing, the short distance there. I just hope that was all factored in, because
Yeah.
those
And-
families really depend on coming across the street to do grocery shopping,
Yep.
to do other things across 31 there, that I really hope that was given extreme consideration for safety.
Sure, sure. And we work with MDOT quite closely on things like timing. In fact, our BPW typically does the timing work and does those tweaks. So we'll make sure that those measures are in place with any kind of changes to that timing. But I fully expect that to be the case.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Any other questions from council? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion in regard to the rezoning. What's the pleasure of council?
Move we adopt the recommendation?
Moved by Hoekstra, is there support? Support by Garcia. Discussion? Yes.
This is just to move to first reading, correct?
Yes. Yes.
This is not to adopt.
This is not to adopt. This is correct. Thank you for the clarification on that. Yes, to move it to first reading. All right, any other discussion by council?
No, I think, I kind of understand what some of your questions were, concerned about the neighborhoods with this potential change and being noticed, and I think we've talked about that before. It's very important that, I don't know how we do it, but how the neighbors who are affected know about these kind of changes. And I'm glad to hear a lot of consideration was taken into their safety in the crossing, because as things change, and we always say nobody likes change, it's good to know that we are looking out for the neighbors.
And we did follow, as I think as Jenna outlined, we followed, and I know, because I asked questions too. I know Planning Commission asked right before, did we follow all of our requirements and our policies with the noticing requirements, and we did.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, Scott.
And so I'll just follow up with that. Again, I think the loose interpretation that I have and others may have had, that maybe more people would have been noticed and probably should. Again, the whole purpose of Planning Commission is to protect the property owners, right? It's to protect the current property owners and making sure we're doing the right thing for our community. We can always introduce new ideas, new designs, and new development. But our first priority is to protect the current property owners here. And I think in that case, having an additional outreach to get some feedback may not hurt or hinder potentially this project, but at the same time, at least we're letting them have some their voices heard.
And I understand the clarification. I think, Jenna, that's a good conversation to clarify that policy, but the intent of the policy and that we did follow the intent, and I would say the writing of the policy. So, but I understand what you're saying. So,
Any other comments from council? Further discussion? Yes, Quincy.
So, maybe this has been answered before, but the 600 feet, is that from the perimeter of the property or is that from the middle of the property?
That's from all different perimeters of the property.
All right, and so out of all, just looking at the map, I don't see a lot of residential right in that area. So how many houses was that again?
So first of all, for the city's notification, we do 300 feet. The 600 feet is just for workshops. So the developers are then required to notice 600 feet. So that came out to 24 properties. The actual occupants were noticed, and then 26 properties in addition. The property owners were also noticed. So that might be that, something is being rented, and so there's an occupant and then a property owner somewhere else.
So 40 then, around a little over 40. I guess I'm, with the impact that this could have to the neighborhood, I'm with Scott that I don't know how we do it, but I know it's beyond the 600, the 300 and the 600, but I think it'd be a good idea to try to reach out to others in the neighborhood, because this will impact more than just those 40-plus homes.
Scott.
I will also, as I mentioned before, there's about 250 homes across the street. They're outside that 300-foot perimeter. They weren't noticed. those people at the trailer court never had an opportunity to make comment on how that would impact their children, their families. And so when again, we're looking at what is the purpose of public notice? What was the intent behind it? The intent was to make sure everybody's voice was heard that was gonna be impacted by this. And so we made this arbitrary 300 feet, 600 feet, thinking, well, not arbitrary, 600 feet.
300 feet.
Perimeter, to make sure or ensure that we had their voice heard. And I just wanna make sure that we're listening to them. We're listening to those people, and that will impact a few other people, south on 40th as well as 39th Street that have actually quite frankly complained about this and are interested in what's going on and weren't noticed, and now they're not only finding out about this only until it hits the paper and until only when we have to make a vote on it, not when the planning commission is making a vote on it. So I think out of respect to the community, and we should really give that consideration. I'm not gonna hold up, on my part, I want this to move ahead for first reading, but I think that there should be some more outreach.
And I'm going to jump in on that and just say, I understand the comments, but we followed, and quite frankly, with the 300-foot notice, how long have we used that exact standard? It's decades and decades,
Yeah.
correct? So if you would want planning commission or someone to set a different policy level standard, that's certainly something that can be evaluated, right? But I would say that's a whole nother level of conversation, which something that we'd be happy to have, because there's always that level, right? And there's gonna be an amount where what's the right distance when people then say, oh, I didn't know about it, I'd wanna know earlier. So, which is a perfectly fine policy level conversation. That if you want to have that at a separate time, or ask planning commission to have that conversation, but we all know, right? There's an element where someone finds out they were just outside whatever standard you hit, and they say, hey, that's gonna impact me, and I wanna be part of the process. We certainly know now that there's part of the process where you've received comments tonight, and you'll receive comments before you would take consideration before the public hearing that did you set it yet or not? I don't think you took a vote, so.
No, not yet.
Yep, so happy to have that policy level decision at some point if there would be the will of a consensus of this group to do that.
And I'm going to piggyback on that, as I want to do oftentimes, Keith, is summarize that and add one little additional point, that we need to be careful about setting precedent with something like this, that we have rules that we need to follow, that I think if I'm understanding you correctly, if we want to change those rules, we have the ability to change those rules, but we have to be very careful about the fact that we follow our rules each and every time that we do something. Because if we start looking at a situation and go, this particular situation, boy, there is somebody that's just outside of that, we're going to set a different standard this time. We've now set a precedent moving forward that may impact something else. Yeah, Quincy.
I agree with you, but this property here is a little different than the majority of the properties that we have, seeing that there are no residents really in that sphere or in that 600-foot radius. So it's not that we, in my opinion, I want to set a new precedence, but this is an anomaly in a sense, outside of what that 600 feet is entailed. Like Scott said, the purpose behind it was that the property owners would have some say-so, that their voices would be heard. And in this case, there are no one in that 600 feet radius, or I'm sorry, that sphere. So I think, again, this is different than what we've done in the past. So I really think this is something that we need to look at and possibly have some conversation about.
Yeah, Scott.
So I guess I would push back that is policy. I'm actually articulating the policy that is written. I'm not creating policy here. I'm not asking about changing the policy. I'm asking for clarification on whether we followed the policy the way I see it or I interpret it and the way others have interpreted it. So I'm not creating policy. All I'm saying is we created in 2019, less than a year ago, a policy to ensure that we were making outreach to people in our community when these kind of things come up. We made an intentional effort and made policy, and as a city, to do that. So it's already policy. I'm not arguing we should change or make policy. I'm saying
You're
we
arguing
should make sure we
that it should have been
follow it.
the 600 feet rather than the 300 feet.
I'm saying that people may have not, or felt that that was not followed based on the way they're interpreting it, the way I'm interpreting it, and even the way our planning division has kind of said or suggested that it could be interpreted just moments ago. So I think the benefit of the doubt should be to make sure that these community members are heard. I don't know that it's gonna change and make a difference, but I think at least they should be heard, and maybe something we haven't thought of, we should be taken into consideration. I've tried to bring up the issues that they brought up to me, so that you guys could answer them, and hopefully if you've answered those questions, maybe that won't have a negative impact on the property. But certainly, I think we have a duty to ask these questions.
Great, thank you. Mike?
Is there any question at all that Scott's interpretation could have some validity to it?
In my professional opinion, no, only because this has always been the intent and we followed it in many different circumstances already.
Then I'm gonna direct this at the city attorney and ask him that same question. I appreciate intent, but intent is interpretation. Same thing in Webster, as far as I'm concerned. You're both saying the same thing, so to me, the 600 foot should go, if in fact the intent was there or the interpretation. I don't want to put words in Vince's mouth, but I'd like to have some clarification on that, because that's the sticking point right here.
Yeah, it would have to be something I think we'd have to look into further. You know, I hear Council Member Corbin's point, and I was noticing it as looking at the ordinance, and I think I also hear what the Planning Commission has done. I certainly can understand, you know, you already have a PUD, so it's not like you're creating a new PUD. So was this the intent only when you're gonna create a PUD, or do we still have this when we're gonna go from a PUD to something else? Typically, you probably don't see it going from a PUD to a C2 or C3 or something like that district. So unfortunately, I don't have a solid answer for you right now, but I think it's something that Ron and I will probably need to look at and give you a better answer on.
I didn't expect one tonight, Vince, but thank you for that. And do you have time to indulge the question that they can come back to us with an answer on that?
Absolutely. I mean, the hearing is scheduled for October 7th, so we have time.
I think that's good.
If I might add just a little bit more, I understand where you're coming from, but I'm gonna have to stand firm on the precedent. Every situation that we have in the city is unique. We get some situations where the density is a little bit higher, 600 foot, you're gonna have a lot of people involved in that. And if we want to change the policy and do away with a minimum of 300 feet that the state law says, then that's up to us to do that policy, or in conjunction with the Planning Commission. That's a discussion that has to happen some other time, and if we feel that strongly about it, to get that involvement, that in-depth involvement, then we need to have a motion at some time in the future to have a discussion on that, or to remand it back to the Planning Commission to have them have that discussion. Then there won't be any question as to what it is. 600 foot is 600 foot. No matter what happens, the notifications go out 600 foot. I think that's very dangerous, but we can't have it both ways. Again, I'm sympathetic with the discussion that I've heard, but I'm gonna stick firm on the precedent here, because that could be extremely dangerous, extremely dangerous. So my recommendation is that we wait for the attorneys to come back to us with their interpretation and take it from that. We've got until October 7th, if that's satisfactory with everybody else.
I'm good with that.
Very good.
So are we doing a motion for first reading, or are we tabling? That's what I'm,
We can continue with the,
yeah, we do have, yes, we do have a motion for first reading, or, yes, thank you, correct. We do. So there is a motion on the floor for first reading. Any other discussion?
So when the attorney comes back with his opinion on October 7, is that when it comes back on the next reading, we have a chance to,
The final vote would be potentially on October 7. We have the ability to be able to vote no
okay.
on October 7 if we believe, based on the
if
information that we
something
received. Yeah,
changes.
yeah, we
Okay,
have the ability to
sure.
vote yes or no based in part on
On
what
the
we hear from the city attorney.
Or-
Yes.
Very good.
or table it.
Or
and send
table it.
Back to the
Or
planning
table it,
commission
Yes.
okay.
for new reconsideration.
Yes,
Very good.
correct.
Okay,
Correct.
thank you.
Yep. Any other discussion? Kathy, would you please call the roll? Quincy, did you have one more? I'm sorry.
One other thing. So I think about all the shreds that we've had in the community. And because you said this could be a dangerous precedent that we're setting. So all the shreds that we have in our community involving all the different people. So I guess that's a struggle for me to understand why you would have that issue when we go from the 300 or the 600 feet to having charrettes in different situations.
Mind I
Yeah,
respond?
go right ahead.
You're comparing apples and oranges, Quincy. Okay. The charrette is a planning, fact-finding, searching idea type of thing. This is a rezoning. This is similar, but not similar. That doesn't make any sense, but two different worlds. You're asking for the input of the public for the good of the public. You're asking for zoning, specific zoning thing here for a specific neighborhood and a specific piece of property that's going to affect this. That's the difference in the two.
All right. I would like to converse with the others later.
Okay.
I will, and Jenna was asking me earlier, and I'll just say, remember, there's all kinds of other notices that we do additionally with all these things. So it's noticed in the Sentinel, it's noticed on our website, it's noticed on all those types of things. So I get that we always have this tension, right? Like, hey, let everybody know, and then kind of what the parameters of that are, which is why that can be a policy level discussion somewhere else. But historically, probably from the beginning of us, because it's linked to the Planning Enabling Act and what the vast, vast, vast majority of communities do, the basis is that 300-foot notification that we do that mailing out to.
Yeah. And Quincy, what it comes down to for me is process, is that we have a process that we follow and we have a set of rules that we follow. And if we vary from that process and those rules, we've now established a precedent potentially that could alter those rules in a way that we had not anticipated that we were going to do it. If we want to change those rules, we can go ahead and do that. But when we have rules in front of us, we need to make sure that we're following them.
Right, and I agree with that statement 100%. That's why I think we need to have a conversation around it, not to deviate right now from the process, but to look at the process and evaluate.
Great, awesome. Any other comments? Kathy, would you please call the roll?
Corbin,
Yes.
Hoekstra,
Yes.
Raymond,
Yes.
Byrd,
Yes.
Garcia,
Yes.
Truthui,
Yes.
Arnshorst,
Yes,
Mayor Box.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Next item, 12D1, approve special event Pioneer Club member appreciation for October 13 through 17, 2020. Mr. Van Beek.
Yes, I think this is a relatively straightforward request, but we know that this is one that we don't even put on consent agenda. So it would be a request for a private club to use a public parking lot as outlined in your packet. And we would recommend approval of the request.
Questions from council for the city manager? Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve?
Moved by Hoekstra. Is there support?
support.
Support by Arnshorst. Any discussion with council members?
Yeah, I just have a quick question.
Sure.
So they're saying they can have, based on I assume the executive order, they can have 26 people in the building. Is that right? And then, so they want to be able to have more people outside. Is there a, do we have a, how do we control the number of people that they have outside? Like, it feels like it could get out of hand.
So I may answer this in a roundabout way.
Okay.
We don't necessarily go in to try to limit how many people are meeting in public or private spaces. We appreciate this, I would say, because they're trying to do something, particularly by moving their event outside. So they actually are staying within the executive orders, which we think is the right way to go.
Okay.
And obviously, so the tent, right, under the executive orders gives a lot more flexibility so they can do something that does follow the executive orders.
All right. Thank you.
Any other comments, discussion from council? Kathy, would you please call the roll?
Hoekstra,
Yes?
Raymond,
Yes.
Byrd,
Yes.
Garcia,
Yes.
Trethewey,
No.
Aaronforth,
Yes.
Corbin,
Yes.
Mayor Box.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Next item, 12E 4.1, purchasing. Approve a vehicle purchase. Mr. Van Beek.
Yeah, we're excited, and our finance director emeritus, I think he's still technically in that role, and purchasing director, Tim Vogley is going to come up and talk about, because this, oh man, you know, this is a little bit outside of normal, and we just really want to outline kind of what we're trying to do here in this pilot project, and Tim is a great person to go through that. So Tim, take it away.
Thank you. Also, Brian White's here, and Brian's staff have worked pretty hard on putting together a plan to try to get ourselves into the electric vehicle fleet. In this current year budget, we had planned to purchase 4 vehicles, and we set aside extra funds in the general fund to help cover the difference between purchasing some sort of a hybrid vehicle versus a traditional combustion engine. And so I got a purchase or a request to put together a bid packet for 4 hybrids, and I said, well, why don't we try an electric vehicle? And there was some apprehension to jump into that pool because we didn't know we were quite ready yet. There's just the staff awareness and training and equipment and all that sort of thing. But through some conversations, we decided to give it a try. We figured we don't know a lot, but what we don't know, we'll learn a little bit more if we try it, at least. So we did that. And so we purchased 3 hybrid vehicles in our August meeting. So the 4th one, the staff looked at 3 different vehicles. By the way, coming to you in the next a couple of meetings or so will be an alternative fuel and equipment purchasing policy that describes how we plan to move towards purchasing vehicles like this. So we're a little bit ahead of that strategy, but still this is part of our overall goals of trying to have a sustainable community. And so we took a look at 3 different vehicles that are sort of mainline. There are more than that available, but we looked at 3 of them. We had a chance to drive them all and got a good deal of interest in this process. We had both the public safety folks drive. City manager drove one, I got to drive it, and Brian and his team had a chance to drive these things. And by far, the Tesla outperformed the other ones significantly, hands down. I don't want to make commercials here at this point in time, but through a series of evaluations, we tried to take a look and objectively see what made the most sense. And that seemed like the right vehicle to try, at least. Again, it's a pilot program, it isn't specific protocol. Unfortunately, you can't really go out to bid on these things. It's pretty much, it is what it is, and that's how much you have to pay. So we are asking council tonight to approve the purchase of a Tesla for this. It's a Model 3. My son happens to own a Tesla Model 3, and that gave me the courage to encourage these other guys to proceed, because it really is a fun vehicle to drive, and it seems like it moves us toward this electric vehicle strategy. So it'll be used in the detective department, and we'll see how it goes. We need to make some improvements as well, so we need to install a couple of locations where we can basically hook up some 220 power and the right kind of gadget on the end of that power thing to plug your thing into, which will allow us to.
Those are all technical terms, right?
Yeah. And it allows us to plug in and charge this thing and drive it around. And so this request tonight is to purchase the car, and then secondly, to make an amendment to the general fund to provide that increased cost to purchase the car above what the normal price would be for the a standard sedan, which, by the way, they don't make standard sedans anymore. So it's hard to find a standard sedan, but that would allow for that, and then another $5,000 to do the wiring necessary, both at the police department and at the transportation services site. So the request is to purchase the car, to amend the general fund budget by $12,500 and allowing that additional cost to be paid for from the general fund. Any questions? And Brian is here as well. He's got a more information that he can provide.
Yeah. Mike?
I'm assuming that we are going to keep a diary of sorts, test reports back, regular updates on how this is performing. This is not our first delve into electric vehicles. BPW bought 3 pickup trucks a number of years ago, back when the good old lead acid batteries were still powering them.
There you go.
Unfortunately, they weighed about 6 times as much as a regular pickup truck because of all the batteries in the back end, and didn't work very well. I'm tongue-in-cheek kind of kidding here, because I'm extremely happy that we're moving in this direction. If you remember, Tim, I kind of pushed the issue with the hybrids about 3 or 4 years ago when we got the Fusion, the first hybrid that we had, the Volts. So we've dabbled in it. I think now we're sticking our whole leg into it. So although I'm knowing that you evaluate things the way you evaluate, you came up with the justification for the $20,000 differential between high bid and low bid, and had that justification all ready to go. So I'm ready, willing, and able to see how this thing turns out. Don't want to see any pursuits in it, however.
Let me tell you, that is one fast car.
Yeah, the Tesla comes with like an oh my goodness mode or something, doesn't it? Yeah. Yeah. Other questions? Lynn?
Yeah, I just noticed, I was just looking at your maintenance paragraph there.
Yes.
So will Tesla pay, if there's a major repair, Tesla pays for the transportation to Detroit?
No, so the major repair,
I'll take it.
Brian, can you come up to the microphone? I hate to have our cleaning person have to do that, but people at home can't hear you if you're not up at the microphone.
I'll take it to Detroit.
And I did. I want to say Brian and his crew really did a great job at investigating this. And quite frankly, the more it got, you could see they were getting excited about doing the investigation too. So don't feel sorry for them. They had fun doing this evaluation.
Yes, yeah, it definitely is, it was a fun one. But to the question about maintenance, so again, as was written there, I think the more general routine maintenance, they have a maintenance person on wheels. We did not confirm whether or not the transit would be something that would be included under the warranty. So I don't know that in 100% certainty. But I do, and again, never predict, but I would expect that there may be something coming our way, in terms of Grand Rapids or something like that in the future.
Mm-hmm.
But the nearest one currently is in Detroit. So.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Other questions from council?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, Nikki.
I'm very excited about this because this is the way we should be going electric. And you did my homework for me because I would like to go electric too. But who's going to drive the police? Or who's going to be the driver of this? Is it just one?
Typically, when the city purchases sedans, they're used in the police department first by the detectives, and then they tend to find their way along the back row here at City Hall, sort of after they've been driven a little bit. And the use by inspectors is not very much, that's not very many miles. It's just, you know, it could be a couple thousand, it could be 3,000. There's not a lot of miles that they get used for. So they start there, they get some miles on them, then they kind of live the rest of their life out the pasture in the back here, in the back 40 at City Hall. But I'm not so sure what kind of good surveillance work is being done with the detectives, because sometimes people notice a Tesla driving around town.
Now,
But anyway.
can Teslas be charged anywhere, or does it have to be a special charger for the Tesla?
It actually can be charged at your house with a 110 outlet.
Yeah.
It takes a long time.
Yeah.
So we are planning to install a couple of locations at the police department. Just put in, like I said, it's a 220 service with a special adapter at the end. And then there'll be one at Transportation Services as well. In addition to that, they can charge at any of the charge point stations in town.
Okay, that's.
And there's a number of those kinds of
Yes,
places they
like
can
at
charge.
City, all right.
And Tesla
Civic
has a
Center.
whole map. If you get the
Yes.
phone, it's gonna be on your app.
Yeah.
So there's several places that can be charged, but the intent at this point in time is to charge at the police station or Transportation Services or any of those other sites. It is possible, for example, the detective could take the car home, plug it in at their house at night, but it just takes a long time to charge that way.
Okay, good, thank you.
Yeah, I've got a couple of questions, and these may be more detailed than you know the answers to, but knowing you, you probably know. And I've been doing the same kind of research, I think, Nikki, that you have been doing. I'm looking into the same thing. And two of the issues that I've been looking at and that I didn't see in the report, if I missed it, I apologize. One is range, and how far this vehicle can go on a charge. And I'm assuming you looked into that based on what the typical detective or inspectors are
Yeah.
doing.
It's my understanding that this vehicle has the extended battery life pack on it. So that's in a surcharge, and we could have purchased a less expensive vehicle had we not bought the extended battery on it. So it's my understanding that a typical battery that comes standard with this vehicle is good for about 200 miles. I think this is good for 250, 300 miles.
About 300 miles, okay.
So, again, I don't see us necessarily taking the car out of town that much, but it certainly does take care of any angst that could happen should we run out of electricity.
Yep, exactly. And then the other question I had, and this is one that I've looked into through the BPW, is the cost savings versus using gasoline. So I drive a big V8 pickup truck that I found I spend about $300 a month in gas on, depending on, I drive a lot of miles, depending on the price of gas. But the BPW has a great calculator on their website that allows you to calculate what it would cost you to charge a vehicle based on the number of miles. And I realized that if one of the vehicles I'm looking at would cost me $9 a month to charge that. So I'm assuming you looked into some of those numbers as well.
It's significantly less, and Brian may be able to answer that question specifically. There is some sort of language that utilized in there, and I will say that I read that once, but I don't recall it. So if we need to get there, it is significantly lower though in its operating costs compared to internal combustion engines.
That's one of the things I'd love to be able to stress to the public is that yes, there's a higher front end cost on this, but the cost of the fuel savings alone is generally pretty significant.
And I'm going to jump in there, Mayor, and suspect that you made your point for the public, so they know that, and they go out there and look. And that was certainly part of our discussion, but while I'm not going to put Brian on the spot to say what was the result of that analysis, one of the reasons, again, that we're doing this as a pilot is like Mike's diary and your like calculation of these types of things. You notice we're buying one. We're not buying 4 of them because we want to do that evaluation so that we have a better feel. So, for example, as you take a look at some of our other operations where we use trucks in the Parks and Rec department all the time, right? Or we certainly have the larger vehicles in transportation. There just aren't the electric solutions we believe yet, but we think this is a really good way where something meets our needs, that we can start to understand a little bit better and understand the maintenance of it. So that's exactly why we're doing a pilot, so we can take those notes and we can get our hands around it and prepare for the future.
Great.
I'm
Thank
waiting
you.
for the first electric plow truck.
Well, as a sidebar, the BPW has purchased a hybrid lift truck. So the engine in the normal travel up and down the road is the traditional engine, but it's that part that does the lift and the up and down that requires an engine running all the time. And it's apparently quite energy efficient and cost effective to operate a vehicle like that. And it doesn't have that same demand for torque like driving the truck up and down the road would be, or getting in and out of the bad areas where they've got to erect poles and that sort of thing. So they've made that a foray into this field as well.
Great. Excellent. Any other questions from council? Otherwise, I don't believe we have a motion on the floor yet.
We do now.
All right.
Motion to adopt recommendation.
Moved by Trethewey. Is there support?
Support.
Support by Byrd. Any discussion? Kathy, would you please call the roll?
Raymond,
Yes.
Byrd,
Yes.
Garcia,
Yes.
Trethewey,
Yes.
Arnsworth,
Yes.
Corbin, Hoekstra,
Yes.
Mayor Box.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Next item, 12E 6.1, gifts. Kathy, would you please review the gifts for us?
The city manager's office is pleased to report the following gifts: Department of Public Safety Services, Victim Services Unit Program, Michigan Sheriff's Association, $1,952. Department of Public Safety Services Fire Division, in-kind donation, Harbor Freight gift cards valued at $300. Parks and Recreation Department, Sal Perez Scholarship Program, Recreation Office's daily cash receipts, $66. It is recommended that these donations be accepted with appreciation, credited to the appropriate account, and an expression of gratitude be forwarded to said donors.
Thank you. What is the pleasure of council?
Motion to accept with appreciation.
Moved by Trethewey. Is there support?
Support.
Support by Ernst-Horst. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Communications from the city manager.
Yes, I have three probably quick things this evening. One, just giving everyone a heads up. I think I did it in my Friday communication already, but it is looking that way, where we might have a busy study session next week. Again, it's a study session. No action will be taken or anything. But the three items that we're looking to cover there is the demonstration bike track on 10th Street and the reconstruction. So Brian White and his crew will come forward, give a presentation on that, and then move towards a recommendation or a choice of a couple of recommendations as to moving forward there. Second is that we will have a presentation and some results from a work study that involved Historic District Commission folks and Parks and Recreation folks as to some options for the greenhouse. That hasn't been talked about with all of you for quite some time, but we think we're making progress on there. So that's up next week. And then Matt has been doing a lot of work, really appreciate it, on the property report. And quite frankly, there's a couple others that have just come out that weren't on the report that he wants to give you an update on some possibilities of surplus property and sales. So just to give you a heads up, it's probably not going to be an hour and 15-minute meeting next week, Wednesday. But if, then we do have a fifth Wednesday after that. So you just have to kind of consider that you put in a good night and then you get a week off.
Reward.
The other thing is, I was joking with Brian before the meeting, and we'll kind of count it done when it's actually done. But one of the more consistent things that I hear, which means I know some of you hear often, and I know poor Brian hears it all the time, is why isn't the city fixing the railroad crossings? And I'm getting very good at giving that description because it really goes back to the interstate commerce clause. and that we have no power over, nor may we touch those railroad crossings. So we are at the mercy of CSX there. But we are very pleased to report that kind of out of the blue last week, CSX came forward and said they have plans to come in next week, Monday morning, and we certainly hope that they'll have that all completed by late in the week, that they are going to do a reconstruct at the Pine and 7th Avenue crossing. Brian's joke that he might kind of keep them in town to try to get them to do others, but that's not really within our purview to do. But you may have already heard we're blasting with information out there because, of course, that does cause some detour issues and everything. But I hope that everyone understands that 4 or 5 days worth of inconvenience is going to be more than worth it to get something that's been an inconvenience for quite some time. So just to put that on your radar.
And forgive me for being skeptical, but what's our level of certainty that that construction is going to happen next week?
Let's just not count it a win until it's done.
All right, that's what I wanted to hear.
How's that for an answer? And then, just because we want to return back to that kind of fun video every council meeting, Matt's going to play a video.
Fall in love
Energy.
with downtown Holland. Stroll the cobblestone sidewalks as the colors change. Shop local for sweaters, boots, and more. Get cozy at a coffee shop. Raise a glass to the changing of the seasons. Celebrate fall in the heart of it all.
How much did it cost to get Tim Allen?
That was the beautiful golden voice of our own Eric Bruscotter. I was very impressed with that. So
Yeah.
I just came up, that video is actually a part of one of those downtown promotions. So fall in love with, get it, fall in love with downtown Holland. You'll be able to go to the downtown website or at a participating restaurant or shop. You can pick up a passport. It'll have a little stamp. And folks can go pick up those passports. They can participate in the businesses downtown. Once their passport is all filled out, they can actually be entered into a drawing for a free overnight weekend and getaway in downtown Holland, complete with hotel and restaurants and some other goodies. So a great video promoting downtown, obviously moving into the fall season, and just a promotion to get some more people to enjoy those businesses and restaurants downtown. So I was a little, he didn't even invite me up. That was a little more time than I probably should have taken. But
You're always welcome at the podium.
Yeah, Matt, they always want to hear from you, me not so much. So you're welcome anytime, I'm sure. And that's all I have this evening, Mayor and Council.
Thank you. I do have a number of items this evening. First is appointments, reappointments, and resignations to boards and commissions. I would ask that council please accept the appointments of John Crawford to the Neighborhood Improvement Commission for a partial term, that term expiring on June 30, 2022. Mr. Crawford will replace committee member Emmett Brown, who resigned May 20 of 2020. Please also accept the appointment of Justin Lambers to the Neighborhood Improvement Committee for a partial term, said term expiring June 30, 2023. Mr. Lambers will be replacing our own Lynn Raymond, who was, as we all know, elected to City Council in November of 2019.
Really?
Please also accept the reappointments of Ronald Chavez to the Parks and Recreation Commission for his 5th full term, that full term expiring June 30 of 2023. And Dr. Donald Swearinga to the Parks and Recreation Committee for his 2nd full term, that term expiring June 30 of 2023. Also, please accept the resignation of Emmett Brown from the Neighborhood Improvement Committee effective May 20, and accept the appointment of Jeff Christians as the Hope College representative who has agreed to serve the Holland Community Energy Plan Strategic Development Team. And I would accept a motion to that effect.
so moved.
Moved by Trethewey. Is there support? Support by Garcia. All those in favor? Oh, any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. And then next is we have recommended appointments to the Holland Youth Advisory Council. And after a rigorous process of review and interviews, we want to welcome the 2020-2021 Holland Youth Advisory Council. And this year we'll be welcoming students from Holland High, Holland Christian, West Ottawa, the Calvary Schools of Holland, Black River High School, and each student, whether on the Holland Youth Advisory Council or on the Youth Board, serves as the voice of youth for the City Council. And it's recommended that the City Council welcome the members of the Holland Youth Advisory Council for the 2020-2021 academic school year and accept the new appointments, reappointments to various boards, commissions, and committees, and their term will expire on June 1 of 2020. And note, all of those names are available in the packet with applications. So I would entertain a motion to that effect.
So moved.
Moved by Hoekstra. Is there support?
Support.
Support by Aaronsource. We'll give you that one, Nikki. I shut you out twice now. I'll get you on the next one, Quincy. Any discussion by council?
I will just note for the long-timers here that we always have had a great tradition where we invite those youth in with their families and introduce them and do all those types of things. And after discussion and quite frankly with youth, it was decided that right now in the pandemic, that probably isn't the best of all things to do. So that's why you don't see that parade of youth and parents in here. But we really wanted to try to do it this way and just encourage you, go through the list. If you recognize some names, hopefully things will loosen up and we'll be able to start seeing them in our meetings in different ways too. But that's why they're not here as they normally would be in a long-standing tradition.
Yes, Mr. Tathui.
And although I appreciate the attempt at brevity, I think we'd miss something if we don't make the announcements at least as we do for the youth on boards, as we do for the other boards.
I would be happy to do that if you would like.
I would
Certainly.
like that. Thank you.
For the Holland Youth Advisory Core Council, Riley Schuff from Black River School for a reappointment, Carly Caudill from Holland High School for a reappointment, Diego Felix Trejo, Holland Early College, reappointment, Abby Mulder, Holland High School, reappointment, Diamante Belcazar, Holland High School, reappointment, Braden Griffin, West Ottawa High School, Ethan Meyer, Holland Christian High School, Eva Whiteman, Holland High School, Samantha Fenema, Holland Christian High School, Sarah Brown, West Ottawa High School, Savannah Virgil, Holland Early College. For the Social Services Committee members, Sarah Brown from West Ottawa High School, reappointment, Lydia Foy, West Ottawa High School, reappointment, Andrew Kai, West Ottawa High School, reappointment, Duncan Kamara Hagemeyer, Homeschool, reappointment, Atif Usmani, Black River High School, Brecken Pansy, West Ottawa High School, Geisha Duran, Holland High School, Sophia Yost, Black River High School, Grace Bashirs, Holland Christian High School, Emily Johnson, West Ottawa High School, and the Recreation Committee members, Braden Griffin, West Ottawa High School, reappointment, Andrea Essenberg, Holland Christian High School, reappointment, Selena Vasquez, Holland High School, reappointment, Ali Deckinga, Holland Christian High School, Jacqueline Palmas, Holland High School. For the Environmental Committee members, Samantha Fenema, Holland Christian High School, reappointment, Lily Sharp, Holland High School, reappointment, Jaewoo Han, Black River High School, reappointment, Annika Boss, Holland Christian High School, Greta Van Zetten, Holland High School, Trenton Burgess, Holland High School, Maya Cooper, West Ottawa High School, Ebony Roach, West Ottawa High School, and Jessica Weaver, West Ottawa High School. And the Holland Youth on Boards, Abigail Mulder, Human Relations Commission from Holland High School, a reappointment, Carly Caudill, Neighborhood Improvement Commission, Holland High School, reappointment, Diamante Balcazar, Teen Court, Holland High School, reappointment, Ethan Meyer, Sustainability Committee, reappointment, Riley Schuff, Max Transit, Black River Public School, reappointment. Hannah Huguet, Sustainability Committee, Black River High School, reappointment. Diego Felix Trejo, International Relations Commission, Holland Early College. Greta Traver, the Police and Community Relations Commission, West Ottawa High School. Connor Carrillo, Teen Court, Holland Christian High School. DJ Duran, Neighborhood Improvement, Holland High School. Eva Whiteman, Parks and Recreation, Holland High School. Greta Traver, Police and Community Relations, and Savannah Vigil, Police and Community Relations. Those are the appointments for this year for HIAC and youth on boards and commissions.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I'm hoping Greta Trevor is one person, not two, because she's on the list twice, so.
Thank you for catching that. All right.
Looking for a motion on that?
I'm looking for a motion on that.
Move to accept the recommendations of the Youth Advisory Council and their associated boards.
Thank you, Mr. Trethewey. Is there support, Mr. Byrd? Support by Byrd. Any discussion by council? All right, all those in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. There are actually two proclamations this evening. The first is in regard to Hispanic Heritage Month. And I know it's been the process in the past for the mayor to go up to the podium and try to figure out a way to be able to speak to both the audience and to the public, or the audience and council at the same time. I'm gonna try something new and try to break with that tradition this evening, and we'll see if this works, and if it doesn't, we won't. I think I'm gonna try it right from here. That way I'm here, I'm at the microphone, I'm able to be on camera and face the audience, and we'll see how that goes. And so the first mayoral proclamation is Hispanic Heritage Month. Hispanics, be proud of your past, embrace your future. Whereas America's greatness is built on the contributions of all individuals who have called the United States of America home, our future will hinge on our ability to celebrate and uphold our people, our most valuable assets, our diverse cultures, histories, knowledge, and our shared values of faith, family, and sense of community. And whereas, for more than 50 years, the contributions of Hispanics, Latinos, and those Americans whose ancestors came from Spain, Mexico, the Caribbean, Central America, and South America have been recognized and celebrated nationally and here in Holland during National Hispanic Heritage Month, September 15 to October 15. And whereas the great state of Michigan has an estimated 470,000 in its Hispanic population, the city of Holland is home to the second largest Hispanic population in Michigan. Our Hispanic and Latino brothers and sisters, friends, neighbors, and coworkers currently make up nearly 23% of our local community and 18% of our American population, and that number is growing. And whereas we celebrate the contributions of our local Hispanic community, whether through nonprofit, for-profit, agriculture, manufacturing, service industries, business, education, healthcare, government, and the many other vital sectors of our local economy. And whereas more than 18 members of the Hispanic community have served on our city boards and commissions, volunteering to help shape the future of Holland. And whereas the city of Holland joins other communities across our nation in honoring the many ways the Hispanic and Latino community contributes to our common goals in working together toward a stronger and more inclusive future and a more prosperous America for all. And whereas we encourage everyone to explore our country's Hispanic heritage by reading and discussing books by Hispanic authors, viewing films featuring Hispanic actors, dining at Hispanic-owned restaurants, shopping at Hispanic-owned businesses, supporting local organizations like Latin Americans United for Progress, and participating in virtual and live events celebrating Hispanic history and culture. Now, therefore, I, Nathan Box, and the members of the City Council do hereby proclaim September 15 to October 15, 2020 Hispanic Heritage Month in the City of Holland and encourage residents to participate in Hispanic Heritage Month programming throughout our city. I encourage our residents to share in this annual tribute by learning about and celebrating the generations of Hispanic and Latino Americans who have influenced and enriched our community. Given under my hand the seal of the City of Holland, the 16th day of November 2020. Mayor Nathan Box. And the second proclamation this evening is for National Recovery Month. Whereas behavioral health is an essential part of health and one's overall wellness, and whereas prevention of mental and substance use disorders works, treatment is effective, and people recover in our area and around the nation, and whereas preventing and overcoming mental and substance use disorders is essential to achieving healthy lifestyles, both physically and emotionally, and whereas we must encourage relatives and friends of people with mental and substance use disorders to implement preventive measures, recognize the signs of a problem, and guide those in need to appropriate treatment and recovery support services. And whereas an estimated thousands of people in the Holland and Ottawa County are affected by these conditions, and whereas to help more people achieve and sustain long-term recovery, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, the White House Office of National Drug Control Policy, and Recovery Fest of the Lakeshore invite all residents of Holland, Michigan to participate in National Recovery Month. Now, therefore, I, Nathan Box, Mayor of the City of Holland, do hereby proclaim September 2020 as National Recovery Month in the City of Holland, Michigan, and call upon the people of Holland to observe this month with appropriate programs, activities, and ceremonies that support this year's Recovery Month theme. Join Voices of Recovery. Invest in health, home, purpose, and community. Given under my hand and the seal of the City of Holland this 21st day of September 2020. Thank you all. That's all that the mayor has this evening. Next item, appointments, motions, and communications from council members. Council members, yes, Mr. Corbin.
So our next Fifth Ward meeting is going to be held tomorrow afternoon from 6 to 7. Bring your lawn chairs. It'll be out at Maplewood Park. Social distancing will be required, maintained. If you have a mask, bring it, especially if you're in close proximity with one another. But we're going to share big concerns, big ideas, big questions. Hopefully we'll all be able to do that. Our guest will be Mary Whiteford, Representative Mary Whiteford from the House. So she'll be there to be able to answer questions regarding state issues. And I will invite my colleagues, but there's one rule. If my colleagues come to my ward meeting, they have to bring refreshments. So. Thank
you. Excellent. Thank you, Scott. Anyone else? Seeing none, I don't believe we have any first reading of ordinances this evening. So there's.
Yes,
oh, we do.
do.
I'm sorry.
Yep, so you just need a motion paired with the rezoning that you are
Yes.
just scheduling the first reading of the rezoning of Lincoln Avenue and 40th Street property discussed earlier this evening.
I will entertain a motion to that effect. Moved by Trethewey.
Support.
Support by Hoekstra. Is there any discussion? And we do a roll call on this one? Kathy, would you please call the roll?
Byrd?
Yes.
Garcia?
Yes.
Trethewey?
Yes.
Arnshorst?
Yes.
Corbin?
Yes.
Hoekstra?
Yes.
Raymond?
Yes.
Mayor Box?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. One additional motion that I would entertain at this point.
Motion to adjourn.
Moved by Trethewey, quickly supported by Byrd. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Thank you, everyone. We are adjourned.